Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What with Dan and Julie. Today we have Matt on, who is a farrier. Hi, Matt.
Hello there.
How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. So what is a farrier?
Farrier basically is the modern day blacksmith. So whereas you guys used to make gates and shoe horses at the same time, now it's just predominantly looking after horses' feet.
It's an ancient craft then.
Yes, yeah, one of the oldest trades there is, apparently. I've not actually looked into quite how old it is, but yeah, it goes back as long as we've known horses.
Wow.
When you say sort of it is the blacksmith of today, is that just because shoeing a horse you can't produce on a production line?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that a bloke's always going to have to tip up and do, I guess. It's not something that can be done by anything other than someone, because obviously it's a living structure and a living animal. So yeah, it's not something you can just have done anywhere. It's something that someone needs to come to you and do for you.
So how did you get into it, Matt?
I had horses as a child. We grew up. I was lucky to have horses when I was a kid. Used to hang around and help the farrier when he used to come and do ours. And did a little bit of work experience with a couple of guys. I didn't really know an awful lot about what I wanted to do when I left school anyway, so it kind of a natural progression. That was sort of the only thing I'd really come across. So it, yeah, come about that way really.
So you sort of fell into it?
Yeah, a little bit. I knew I wanted to work with horses because that's kind of what I did in my spare time, and was natural to sort of carry it on into some sort of job going forwards. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy the mucking out and the grooming. So,
So did you leave school at 16 and then go get an apprenticeship to become a farrier?
Yeah, it was an apprenticeship. Yeah, I went. First sort of main experience was work experience from secondary school. I went out with a local guy for, I think it was a couple of weeks work experience, and then I went to college and did what's called a pre-farrier course, which was an introduction to Farriery. It wasn't part of the apprenticeship. It was a year-long course up in Warwickshire. And then after that, you then apply to the training farriers around the country and hope that you get a job. And then, you start an apprenticeship, which is 4.5 years long. Generally, guys want you to do a good 6 months before you go to college for the first time. So you're looking at the best part of 5 years, start to finish.
Oh, wow.
Wow, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So how much of it is the blacksmithing and making of the shoes versus understanding the sort of anatomy of the foot and how to actually shoe properly?
I'd say, well, with the apprenticeship, you're based with a training farrier, and you shoe multiple horses 5 days, 6 days a week, and then the theory side is done 6 monthly at college for blocks of anything between 2 weeks and a month. So that's when you go and do all your theory side of it. And obviously there's quite a bit of that. There's a lot going on inside a foot that you need to know about, as is in the rest of the horse. So yeah, I'd say, we're obviously shaping bits of metal and putting them on the bottom of horses' feet, but anatomy, there's an awful lot to it. So it's pretty much half and half, I'd say.
Am I right in saying that a horse's hoof is essentially like a big finger?
Yeah, a big fingernail. Yeah.
Right. How hard is it to judge sort of how deep to go and how much to take off? And I guess you just learn.
Really, yeah. I mean, there's the odd little pointers that you can use to sort of find your way through the hoof and know how much foot's on there, but it's purely just down to experience and the skill that you gain through the years. I mean, I still come across horses, and I know guys that still come across horses, and you're still not quite sure how much foot's on them, but you go a little bit and you feel it, and yeah.
Something you sort of learn intuitively as you go along.
Massively, and every foot's different, every horse is different. So it's, there's not one rule that fits all by any stretch of the imagination.
And you sort of specialises in imbalances, right?
Yeah,
And sort of, is that with race horses, or is that with competition horses, or just any horse?
every single horse, every single horse. We've all got conformation abnormalities. Um, you know, everyone's got a slightly bent finger or a wonky toe, and that goes down through the horse as well. So any sort of conformation is going to need correcting through balance and rebalance, and be that with the trim or the shoe itself.
Okay, so do you measure up a horse and then make the shoe, or do you have like a range of shoes that you go with
Yeah, I
and
mean,
adapt them on sites?
your day-to-day shoes are all keg shoes, so they're all off the shelf. They come in increments of half-inch size steel that they're used, lengths of steel that they use to make them. And you'll get those shoes on, all day long. That's absolutely fine. If you come across something that needs a little bit more of remedial work, or some that requires a bit more outside of the normal, then you make the shoes for those. But that's less and less common, and that's purely just down to time and expense as well. It costs a lot to make shoes through gas and fuel and steel and stuff. It's cheaper and more profitable. I know I shouldn't say that, but it is, to buy ready-made shoes, and there's nothing wrong with them if you know how to put them on.
Mm. How much of the work that you do is catered for sort of competition and race horses? Is their level of service a bit more than just putting a shoe on a normal horse?
I wouldn't say so. If it's wrong, it's wrong. Obviously those horses are working at a lot higher standard, and those horses are worth a lot more money to someone or people. So obviously, the margins for error and what you can and can't get away with regards to it being absolutely spot on, or it's absolutely fine and it'll just be fine, then those tolerances are a lot smaller. So they take a lot more shoeing, they take a lot more work, and generally they have a lot more problems because of the level of work that they do. So they're picking up injuries, or if you've got a slight abnormality in a cob that plods down the road, it's never going to be a problem. But if it spent a season cantering across unlevel ground, jumping big cross-country jumps, or running at an absolute flat-out gallop for 3 or 4 minutes, then those small problems will over time become big problems. So they need monitoring a lot more.
And how much of a physical job is it for you, dealing with these humongous animals at times and having to, hold their leg while you're doing this this work on their foot? How hard is that?
Hard. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. It's a very physically demanding job. I mean, I've been shoeing now I qualified in 2005. I've done 5 years on top of that, so I'm coming on for sort of 20 odd years. And it's hard. Every day my back hurts. Some mornings it's a struggle to put my socks on. But that's part of it, and it is very physical, and it's not a very safe job. They're big animals. Their natural instinct is to just run away if they're not happy about something, and if you're in the way, then that's not really a concern of theirs.
I was going to say, it's quite a dangerous job as well, I guess, because these huge beasts have a tendency to kick back, don't they?
They do, and where we are in relation to the horse, we're pretty up close and personal with them, so the likelihood of getting a good kick is pretty slim. You're actually worse off working with donkeys. They've got a different action when they kick, and they do like to. But yeah, horses, if you're up and close to them, they'll generally just give you a bump. But it does happen. They'll catch you. I've been quite fortunate over my career. I've not picked up too many lasting injuries. I dislocated knee and a few bad kicks, but other than that, I'm I'm pretty good to go, really.
That's quite a common one, I think, with working or being with horses, the knee injury. I worked with a girl who was just riding a horse along, and the horse next to her kicked her and shattered her knee.
Yeah.
So I think that's a common issue with working with horses.
Yeah.
Your blacksmithing and forging skills, do you, obviously the skills you picked up from farrieing, do you apply that to anything else?
For the first sort of probably 10 years of my career, no. It was specifically just shoeing horses. But a lot of guys are now looking at diversifying, be it in the blacksmithing industry or something entirely different. There's a lot of us now. Years ago, when I first started, the phone would ring every day with a new client. That doesn't happen anymore. So as there are more and more farriers, there are obviously, it's stiffer competition and there's less potential for new clients. So yeah, I do look at, I'm all the time thinking of things that I can do as well. Blacksmithing is something that I do enjoy, and fabricating and stuff like that. So I have done things. A little while ago, we set up a company called Hand Forged Hearts, which is keepsakes made out of old horseshoes shaped into obviously a heart shape, and they can be like personalized and stamped and stuff like that. But then, like anything, work gets in the way, and those things are extra on the end of your day, which obviously doesn't always work out.
I'm surprised that there's now more farriers than there were when you first started. You think it would sort of go the other way round?
Yeah, it's a massive misconception. A lot of people I talk to that aren't in the horsey industry, and they ask what you do for a living, and you tell them they're all dying trade, that one. And no, not even close. Not even close. It's massive. And when I first trained, there would have been probably 5 or 6 in my local area. Now you're looking at tenfold. Wow. Yeah.
You have to be. It's not something you can just turn up and do, right? You had to have a full qualification at the end of your.
Yeah. So you pass your diploma, and you get your letters after your name. So in England, you do have to have a registered qualification. You're part of the Farriers Registration Council. So yes, you do, to practice farriery. In the UK, you do have to have an actual qualification. There are guys out there that aren't qualified; they get picked up every now and then. But yeah, England is one of the only countries, or the UK, sorry, is one of the only places where you do actually have to have a registered qualification.
Right. So what's an average day like for a farrier? Are you up early blacksmithing to get the shoes ready to go out, or how does it work?
No, the van, obviously we're mobile, so the van's stocked, ready to go. You've got your horses, because we have a regular client base, so we know the horses we're doing on the day. So the van's stocked, we're out the door at 7, under the first horse, depending on how far you go, between 7:30 and 8. And generally on the average through the summer, obviously we've got the daylight hours, so we work a bit longer, and we'll be done about sort of 5:30, 6 o'clock, unless there's any problems. Through the winter, obviously it's cut. Your days are a bit shorter and a bit more rushed, so you're normally done. If you've got somewhere with lights, you can finish off. If you can't, and you're done about 4:30.
What sort of personality traits do you need to become a farrier?
I think you need to be quite understanding, quite sort of, it's difficult. A lot of the, you have to be quite patient, would probably be a good word, with horses and owners. They're all quite high maintenance. So yeah, you have to be quite patient at times. Obviously, when it comes to your livelihood and your safety, then you have to be quite sort of strict on that sort of side of it. But yeah,
did the majority of people come in from being horse lovers into the industry?
Yeah. I mean, I was in a group of 27, I think, on on my apprenticeship, and I think there was only one or two that couldn't ride or hadn't really had anything to do with horses.
So
I think it's a massive help. You know, they're big animals, and you need to be able to understand them, and having to learn that as well would be hard.
So we sort of mentioned personality traits of someone, and I guess a lot or most farriers will be sole traders. So you've got to have a bit of get up and go and find new clients and be able to hunt for jobs, I suppose.
A little bit. It's a very old traditional trade, so there are very strict rules with regards to going and finding work. You can advertise just like anyone else, but there's no, you can't tip up to a yard and ask if you can shoe their horses. Right. So there's none of that goes on. It's a lot of it, I'd say 90% of it is word of mouth. So you have to have a lot of, you have to be a dedicated person. You have to be putting in the effort, because obviously your work will get you more work. If you're a good farrier, then you'll be busy. If you're no good, then you won't be. So, and that's only, there's a lot of natural talent in it, but there's also a lot of effort put into it as well.
What are some of the biggest positives and opportunities you've taken out of doing this as a career? I mean, your Instagram, you've got quite a following on Instagram, and you've got a YouTube channel, and you're doing all these extra things around the job. What are the biggest positives you take out of doing it?
I mean, my social media side of it, I use that a lot for other people. They contact me through that and, ask advice and help and stuff. And I get a lot out of that. I enjoy doing that. I'm going to try and look into trying to charge for that, because I seem to spend quite a bit of time doing that. But yeah, that's nice. That's good. I mean, just being outside, working with horses. I like horses most of the time. And it's a rewarding job. If a horse is broken or lame and it's not when you finish, then that's good. That's a good feeling. Self-employment is not for everyone, but it suits me. It suits my lifestyle. If I don't want to work next Wednesday, I haven't got to ask anyone's permission. It's nice. It suits me, and it's outdoors, and it's an old traditional trade. It's good to do.
What are some of the less favourable aspects of the job, though?
Getting kicked.
Yeah.
Getting bit.
Yeah.
Found.
Yeah.
Smell.
The weather. The weather's pretty grim.
Yeah.
Getting dragged about. The fact that and I've said it before, I do spend every day with a sore back. But I'm sure there's lots of jobs that incur injuries and pain related parts, and it's quite a fickle world, the equine industry. No one will really know you unless you do a bad job. It's all the time you're doing well and doing all right, then you're pretty much under the radar, but if something goes wrong, you're flagged up instantly.
Did you also have to set up your own forge at the beginning of this?
No, I've always been strictly mobile, so everything's in the van, so I can everything I need to do, from basic shoeing to remedial stuff is all mobile with me. I do have a premises that I share with a couple of other local farriers that we use occasionally if we need it, but it's not a necessity, and it's not something that I ever really set up.
We like to just talk a little bit about sort of average incomes. We've looked at some stats for farriers, and it ranges massively, obviously, because it's self-employed, but it seems to range from anywhere from 16 up to 30,000. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically dependent on any self-employed job. It's how much time you want to put into it, how hard you want to work. I've never been a numbers chaser. I'm best part of 6 foot, and with my head between my knees all day long. I need to, I can't do the big numbers until I'm 70, so I need to, I've never been a one to go out and do as many as I can. I'd rather do a good job and and to be honest, you can, if you're doing well and you're doing a good high standard of work and you can charge well for that, then I can do less and earn the same as the bloke that's out there doing chasing himself around.
Yeah.
What separates a really good shoeing to one that's, you know, sub level? What is it that makes it a really good job?
That's a very good question, actually. I think basically you'll know if it's, you know, obviously you get jobs that are better than others. Balance, symmetry. You can get a lot of things wrong with regards to shoeing horses before it actually causes a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you see a lot of work out there that is, in my eyes, substandard, but that horse is sound. It gets ridden every day and everyone's happy. So, you know, obviously balance and symmetry and longevity of the shoes, you know, how long they stay on the foot for. I mean, they're changed every 6 weeks as it is. But it's just down to personal opinion, really, and personal preference. But you can do a pretty substandard job, and it does happen, and you'll get away with it.
I guess you've been doing it for so long, you might even be able to look at a horse in a paddock and go, his balance is a bit off there.
It's funny when you drive down the lane and the horses are coming past, being ridden. I very rarely look above the knee. It's just your eyes are drawn to the feet, and you always have a little comment about them. Yeah.
And do you need any specialist tools to do your work?
Yeah, obviously there's a range of Farriery tools that are designed specifically for shoeing horses. So you have a floor kit, what they call a floor kit, and that's in a toolbox that you use around the horses. And then obviously you have your forging equipment as well, so hammers and tongs and various other tools that you use when you're at the anvil.
And what would be something that you deal with day to day that's probably not in the job description?
A lack of tea. That's a big problem that I have to deal with. A lack of tea facilities. To be honest, there wouldn't be an awful lot that wouldn't be in the job description. I don't even think you could really write a job description.
No, I don't think you could.
for shoeing horses. And to be honest, it's a job that is what you make it. You have to kind of write the rules as you want them to be. Otherwise, it can be quite crazy. You have to be quite strict about stuff. But as far as stuff that wouldn't be in the job description, I don't think there is. I mean, they don't write on the job description that your back's going to hurt like hell in 2 years' time. You're probably going to rasp off your knuckles at least once a day. And various other ailments that you're going to pick up along the way. But other than that, no, it's pretty much what it is.
So how do you progress as a farrier? How do you get your name out there? It's just through sheer doing good jobs and sort of the time you put into it?
Yeah, time and effort, and just, you know, you've got to be nice to people, you've got to be polite to people, you've got to work hard, you've got to be seen to be trying. Do the best job to the best standard you can. And just don't get a bad name for yourself. It's not something that's, it's easily done. It's something you have to try to avoid doing. But as far as, you know, bettering yourself, yeah, definitely. That's another reason why I do my social media. You know, I look at every job like I want that to be postable. I want to be able to put that out there. Yeah. So that gives me a little bit of an incentive to try that little bit harder. Customers take a lot away from that as well. They like the fact that, you know, you've done that extra little bit to make it extra pretty and look nice for the photos and for the Instagram and stuff. So, you know, that's something that people like. It's just effort. You've got to put effort in.
Yeah, certainly. And would you still go into the industry knowing all you know now?
That varies day to day, and that's not me just me trying to be funny. That generally does vary from day to day. You'll have good runs and you'll have bad runs, and I think that's probably the case for every job. Personally, as much as I moan about it at times, probably would.
Have you got any tips for any young farriers considering, or young people considering going into farrieing?
Go for it. You'll love it.
Yeah.
It is a good job. It is a good job. As long as you're prepared to work hard, it's a good job. One of the things that I wish I'd done, but family commitments didn't allow, was to, once you've qualified, go and work with lots of guys. Although you've got your certificate and you can do it, and you're legally allowed to, and you are shown to be competent, you will still know very little compared to someone that's been doing it 30, 40 years. So yeah, gain as much experience as you can.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on, Matt. I found that really interesting.
No problem at all.
That's
no
brilliant.
problem at all.
Can you shout out your social media?
Yeah, so it's Matt Wallis Farrier. There's an underscore between Matt and Wallis and Farrier. And then again, Matt Wallis Farrier on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming on, Matt.
No worries at all. Cheers, guys. Good to speak to you. Take care now. Bye-bye.